Hello YouTube, welcome to the first tutorial on this Angular series. Now if you don't have the Angular installed globally on your system, go follow the previous video about the Angular setup, and if you have already, let's get started. Now today's topic is about Angular modules and components. These are the most basic building block of your applications. So let's see what are those. Modules. Modules are containers for a block of code dedicated to an application. They can contain components, services, and other relevant files. Each module can import or export functionalities from other modules. Usually, or rather, so small applications contain only one module, but it can depend on the nature of your application. Now, what are components? Components are the most basic UI building blocks of an Angular application. An app contains a tree of Angular application of components. And each app can contain as many components as the user wants. So here you can see two modules A and B shown. Now think of a module as a superclass which contains all the classes inside it. The root class or main class in each module further contains three subclasses, and that's how modules work. Now the question is, what do components contain? Components are nothing but a class each for a specific function. They contain their own HTML, CSS, and TypeScript file which are generated automatically by the Angular CLI. The HTML file, as you know, contains template, CSS file the styles, and the TypeScript file contains variables and methods. Now let's head to the VS Code to take a look at the modules and components in our application. So here you can see an app already created for us. Let's go to the app folder and you can see all the files already created for us. We will be doing most of the work in this app folder. Look at this declaration, array, imports, array, providers, and bootstrap in the .module file. The declaration will contain each component registered on this module. We have the first already created component known as app component. The TypeScript file declares a class to be used within this component which can hold variables, raw data, and methods. The HTML file contains a template for us, and the CSS file, as you can see, which is empty for now. In the TypeScript file, we have some properties defined for the component, the template URL and the style URL. These are the links to the file where the template and CSS files are stored, or rather defined, which are these files, as you can see here, .component.html and CSS. Furthermore, we have a selector defined. Now what is selector? Selector is a way to identify the component in our application. Each component has its own unique selector which helps Angular identify the specific component and act accordingly. Now the starting point of all the applications is this index.html file which contains its metadata, head, and this body here. In the body we have a defined component which is just a selector for the app component we have created here. Now this tells the Angular to show whatever is present in the selected component on the place where the component is selected. Let's go to the browser to see what the app contains. Open the terminal. I have an application already running on the localhost 4200. So let's go to the browser, log on to localhost 4200, and here you can see the hello world printed. Hello world, which was defined in the app.component.html file and is selected in the index.html file. Now to create another component for our application, go to the terminal. At the prompt, make sure you are in your Angular folder and type ng, which is short for Angular, G for generate, C for component, and then the name of your component, which will be example in our example. This will take some time, and as you can see now we have 4 files created and which are enclosed in this folder example. The example folder inside of it will contain the same 4 files: example.component, .ts spec HTML, which is defined, and the CSS, which is empty for now. Now this component has its own selector. Wherever we wish to show this component, we can use this selector, and this HTML, whatever it is written in HTML file, will be shown on our browser. Let's go to the app.component HTML, and here we will add the selector for example component. As you can see, app hash example, and close. Let's save it, go to our browser, and here you can see example works. The example works, which was defined in the HTML file of example component, and hello world was written in the app.component HTML. Another way to define templates is doing so directly in the TypeScript file. This is called defining the inline templates. You may wish to write your templates here in this file, and you can do so. Let's remove the URL, as we are not providing a URL now and are providing the direct template for this component. Let's say hello, or rather say inline template works. Save it, and then we go to our browser to see the inline template work, and here you can see the inline template works. Now, like the inline templates, we can also define the styles, CSS style classes, also in this here, but for right now let's just say template URL, save it. Now notice one thing in our module file. The example component is already selected or included in the declaration array, and is also imported from the folder in which example is defined. This is done by the extension, auto import extension, which I have installed on my VS Code. So you can install it on your VS Code also. That would be helpful. With this, we complete our modules and components introduction. We will further look at other basics of Angular and how they can be used and interact with each other to build your web applications.